you. Good morning and welcome. I am Councillor Claire UD, Chair of the
now exiting
Policing Committee. This meeting is being heard virtually in response to the limitations placed on governance by the COVID-19 pandemic. The City Solicitor has advised that this meeting will be run by reference to the model standing orders as set out in the Local Authorities Coronavirus Flexibility of Local Authority Meetings Regulations 2020, number 9392. Members of the public are invited to view this meeting and there has been opportunity for written deputations to be submitted. Can members please keep their cameras on throughout the meeting but turn your microphones off when not speaking? Officers, please only turn on your cameras when you are speaking. If anyone would like to speak, please write your name and RTS in the chat function. Each time you speak, please say who you are so it's clear who is speaking. I'm going to move on to introductions now. Councillor Peter Harris.
Councillor Scott Peter Harris, the Vice Chair of the Licensing Committee.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ashmore.
Dave Ashmore, I'm one of the councillors for Fratton Ward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chris Atwell.
Good morning, Chair. Councillor Chris Atwell present.
Thank you very much. Councillor George Fielding.
Morning, Chair. Councillor George Fielding, Central Southsea Ward present.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hannah Hockaday. I'll come back to that in a second. Councillor Leo Madden. I saw a Leo Madden earlier. Is he gone? Blimey.
It was never him. It was Lee Mason.
Oh, was it? Oh, sorry. Yeah. And Councillor Lee Mason.
Good morning, Councillor Lee Mason, Caution Ward.
Thank you very much. Councillor Robert New.
Good morning, Chair. Councillor Robert New, Councillor for Cotton Ward. Present.
Thank you. Councillor Benedict Swan.
Good morning, Chair. Councillor Benedict Swan from Cotton Ward.
Thank you very much. And apparently we've received apologies from Councillor Vernon Jackson. I'll do introductions before I go back to of licence officers introductions.
Hello.
Hello, Councillor. Sorry, I completely missed your name. Your name. Councillor Linda Symes.
Present. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
also missed me, Chair. I'm present as well. Councillor, exactly. I can't put my camera on because my camera is broken, so I'm not deliberately hiding, but I've got no camera at the moment.
Apologies. You aren't on my list, and I totally forgot. So, thank you.
And the other Fratton councillor as well.
Pardon?
The other Fratton councillor as well.
You skipped over me, Chair, as well.
Oh my goodness.
Councillor Tom Coles, Fratton Ward.
Dem Services sending me this cookie script. Thank you very much.
Apologies.
Councillor Tom Coles. Thank you. You said hello. So we'll wait on Councillor Vernon Jackson and Councillor Hockaday. So licensing officers, I've had apologies from Nikki Humphreys. Ross Lee, licensing officer.
Good morning, Chair. Yeah, Ross standing in for Nikki this morning.
Thank you. Ben Attrell, legal advisor.
Good morning, Chair. Ben Attrell, present.
Thank you. Sam Whitfield, technical transport planner.
Good morning, Chair. Yeah, present today.
Thank you. Pam Turton, assistant director, transport and regen. I think Pam was just here on advice, so because Sam's giving the report, so we can hold fire on that. Hayley Trower, air quality lead for transport, who's been in and out. I don't know if she's made it in or not. Once again, Hayley was here to give advice, and I guess a lot of people may be asking questions of her today, so I hope she can make it back in. Erica Stiles, air quality engagement officer.
Good morning, Chair. Present.
Hello, thank you. Lisa Gallagher, local democracy officer.
Good morning, Chair. Present.
Thank you. Oh, there is a thing saying, is there anyone present at the meeting who I've not called? So that's all the councillors not on my list. Councillor Hockaday's not coming yet. Any apologies for absence, Lisa?
Yes, we've got apologies from Councillor Ferret and Councillor Vernon Jackson.
Any declarations of interests, members? Oh, Councillor Ashmore, hello.
Yeah, I'm told it's not a prejudicial interest, but it's just to make out because of my cabinet role on environment and climate change and the clean air zone stuff interact. So I just want to put that out there for transparency reasons. But I've been told it's not a prejudicial interest.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ashmore. We'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting on the 25th of September. Do a quick read together, I suppose. Hopefully you've all read it beforehand. Page 1, which is page 5 in your reports. Page 2. Page 3, on any other business, it says the chair asked the committee to note a report on the greening of licensing objectives, which will come to the next meeting. I don't remember that I said it will come to the next meeting. I thought we were just going to think about it. So I don't know if we can, I'm happy to have, we can keep it, or I'd rather have it amended. So
I'll be honest, Chair. I think you're actually right with what you said there. I think you didn't say it was coming to the next meeting. I think you said for ideas to come to the to yourself.
Cool. Could we have that amended out? And I'll propose that be amended to. I didn't ask for it to be at the next meeting, but ideas. I propose that amendment. Can someone second it for me, please? Thank you, Councillor Peter Harris. Is everyone okay with that? Any dissent? No. Checking back, did Councillor Hockaday come? No. Okay. So then I will move on to agenda item number 4, Hackney Carriage and Private Hire Matters, amendment to the Statement of Licensing Policy. First of all, I'd like Erica Stiles to read out a deputation of Bruce Hall from Aquacars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I will now read out the deputation from Bruce Hall, Treasurer at Aquacars, and will read this as written. Dear Committee, in regard to a recommendation in the report that the Licensing Department are asking you to rubber stamp, I am not only upset but extremely disappointed that a department that the trade pay for is, to coin a phrase, throwing our industry to the wolves. Not only has the taxi/private hire industry been going through the worst pandemic of my life, where earnings for our industry has been decimated, we are now being asked to rubber stamp a decision that vehicles over 8 years old are not fit for purpose. This is not only a ludicrous decision that the Licensing Committee are being forced to make. The decisions in this report embark on findings from reports carried out in 2018 and 2019, when the world was a totally different place. Aircraft flew, car journeys were at 65% higher than today, cruise liners were operating, etc. The Licensing Department is relying on out-of-date statistics to what appears to be a fair campaign against not only the taxi/private hire trade, but the motorists in general. Has any research been carried out since March 2020, as coronavirus has changed the whole dynamic of the 2018 and 2019 reports? The report suggests that you lower the age of vehicles so that £0.5 million fund from central government will be released to support towards making taxi/vehicles even less than the 0.6 million that the council spend on buses, not to mention helping bus companies to reduce pollution, or even 0.25 million more just to oppose who wish to supply much needed electric to a substation at Lovedale. How ironic, you seriously cannot make this up. No such subsidies are given to the taxi/private hire trade from PCC. We are not expected to be supported, but a level playing field would be very nice. One issue will be wheelchair accessible vehicles. Firstly, there are none available for the private hire industry. There is the £60,000 plus London style cab, but even with this, over the proposed 8 years only, we'll have to return £7,500 to pay back the payments, and this amount is without interest payments or run costs. The Nissan Leaf that is available is around £30,000, no concessions on being green, just 8 years to make it pay. Economics and these policies will drive people away from our already battered industry. Another will be the total lack of charging points dotted around the city whatsoever of where cars will be able to park, even if you are able to park close to your house, or there will be a lot of copper being stolen from extension leads. Just as a passing thought, what the Lighting Department and PCC going to do with out-of-town cars apply for hire in the borough of Portsmouth without stickers, being older than 8 years of age that this proposal is, silver in colour, plus no cameras? The decisions to make to Friday will either inevitably be proven to be star, or it will make the private hire outsource their vehicles and badges to another councils, saving the industry needed money, also saving PCC money, as they will no longer require private hire to be licensed or policed by PCC licensing officials. What a fantastic start to 2021. I'm all for a cleaner world, especially for my children and grandchildren, but not by policies that will bring in more hardship to honest working people who have voted councillors into power to protect them and make the right decisions for all their futures. I hope that you will all take back, understand the costs that will be involved with this extremely damaging proposed policy and reject it, requesting the licensing department to come with a proposal that is not so damaging to an already damaged industry. The author of this deputation has provided a link to a Sky News article regarding being stored in fields due to fairs drying up in London, which is available to everyone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Erica. The deputation has also been sent out to all members prior to this meeting. Then I'll move on to thank Sam Whitfield to present the report, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just present the paper now. I've prepared some slides. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. This paper is with regards to Hackney Carriage and private hire, a licensing review with respect to age and EV capability. Just to give some context and background before we begin, Portsmouth, as I'm sure you're aware, Portsmouth has illegal levels of air pollution. This causes ill health and in the region of around 95 deaths per year. We've been issued with a ministerial direction to reduce these levels as soon as is possible. After comprehensive technical studies, it's been shown that the most effective measure will be a Class B clean air zone. Amongst other vehicles, this will charge taxis £10 for every day that they enter the zone if they are non-compliant. If it were introduced now, around 30% of the fleet would be non-compliant and hence would be charged to enter the zone. The year that the government has given us to achieve compliance in terms of emissions is 2022. This has remained unchanged over the past year, despite the economic impact of coronavirus. The recommendations of this report are therefore to help meet compliance with our air quality objectives, but also to set the framework to provide the best possible support for our trade moving forwards. In order to drive compliance with government's targets, we need our taxi fleet to be cleaner and newer. The clean air zone is coming, and so the best way to support the fleet, we feel, is through these recommendations, which are that the licensing committee approve the proposed amendments to the statement of licensing policy as follows: that, as a matter of local policy and condition for both Hackney Carriage and private hire vehicle licences, all private hire and Hackney Carriage vehicles presented for initial licensing shall be under 4 years of age on first licensing, and any vehicle may be relicensed until 8 years of age, provided the vehicle meets with the requirements of the PATN guidance as approved by the council and is supported by an evidence service history in line with the manufacturer's guidelines, and that the upper limit for licensed vehicles to come into effect on the 1st of January 2022. For that final bullet, we've had a proposed amendment that it read that the upper age limit for licensed vehicles come into effect on the 1st of January 2022. Also, that the following statement be attached to the statement of licensing policy in order to secure £500,000 for rapid EV charging points specifically for use by the Hackney Carriage and private hire fleet. The statement is that all newly licensed vehicles be zero emissions capable from the 1st of January 2025. The final recommendation is that the licensing committee endorses the proposal that officers will seek to negotiate a restructuring of funding from central government's joint air quality unit unless a greater amount be allocated to wheelchair accessible vehicles. The first of these proposals was to introduce an 8-year maximum age limit for relicensing of Hackney carriages and private hire vehicles. This would come into force on the 1st of January 2022 and, given the present fleet, would lead to 149 vehicles needing to upgrade before this date. Almost all of these are CAS non-compliant, meaning that they would be charged for every time that they enter the clean air zone. Through the government's Clean Air Fund, we've secured funding to help upgrade these vehicles, as it is there to help those most in need and most affected by the introduction of the CAS. Introducing an 8-year limit for relicensing will lead to a drop in the number of non-compliant vehicles by 46%. Or to put it another way, 46% fewer will have to pay the charge to enter the CAS. The second recommendation is that all newly licensed vehicles be zero emissions capable by 2025. Zero emissions capable essentially means the better performing hybrid vehicles and electrics. This recommendation is being made in order to secure £500,000 of funding for EV rapid charging points. This has been raised by the trade, or the absence of these has been raised as a trade as an obstacle to EV adoption or electric vehicle adoption. But we're proposing that through providing these charging points that we address these concerns and remove an obstacle in the way of the trade. We're proposing 2025 rather than sooner, as we are aware of and sensitive of the challenging environment facing the trade at this time. If this recommendation is not approved, Portsmouth will not receive the funding and we will not be able to provide charging points for the sole use of the trade. The final recommendation is that the committee endorses the proposal that officers will seek to negotiate a restructuring of funding from central government's Joint Air Quality Unit in that a greater amount be allocated to wheelchair accessible vehicles. Portsmouth City Council have secured £600,000 from the government on the basis of providing £1,500 for standard taxis and £4,000 for wheelchair accessible vehicles. These are limits that have been suggested by government. This funding is not intended to help everyone, it is intended to help those who will be most impacted by the introduction of the clean air zone. We've identified that wheelchair accessible vehicles face the highest upgrade costs and that they also provide an important role in supporting disability groups within the city. Therefore, as a result, we are proposing to go back to government to seek to renegotiate the distribution of the funding to provide additional fund or to provide a greater level of support for wheelchair accessible vehicles. Additionally, a separate item for context that is currently being progressed through Cabinet is with regards to the length of the sunset period that is due to be offered to wheelchair accessible vehicles. Which is the length of time that they will be exempt from paying the cash charge, but it will be time limited. Any decision on sunset periods may affect the money that the government is willing to allocate to wheelchair accessible vehicles, as the Clean Air Fund is there and is intended to help those who will be most affected by the introduction of the clean air zone. To conclude, then, we have illegal levels of air pollution here in Portsmouth, and we are legally required to reduce these, and to do so we need to deliver a Class B CAS. However, the clean air zone on its own is not enough. We do need changes to licensing to encourage a faster upgrade of the fleet. By implementing these changes to licensing, we will be able to unlock support for the trade and help them through this time. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Thank you. Just one issue. I've been informed that Councillor Leo Madden has joined the meeting. Councillor Madden, do you have any interest at all?
No, I did put my hand up to say apologies for the lateness, but I have no interest. but I'd like to speak at some stage.
Cool, thank you, Councillor Madden. You arrived halfway through the PowerPoint, which I would say excludes you from voting upon this motion, but I'd like to ask Councillor Ben Attrell if you're able to participate in a way of asking questions, because I would feel like you may have lots of questions that might be very useful for committee here.
Sorry, Chair. Did the PowerPoint cover? I saw I came in at the beginning of that. Are we talking about the presentation that I've just heard?
This is item 4, yes.
Well, I came into that. I heard all that.
You've been from the beginning. Can I have confirmation from the legal advisor, please? Sorry, because I didn't know you were here from the beginning.
No, I wasn't here from the beginning. I was here from the beginning of the presentation.
So I think what you're saying, Councillor Madden, is that you missed the reading of the deputation, but you were here for the start of the presentation. Is that correct?
No, I heard the deputation as well.
You heard that too.
Yes.
In that case, Chair, it's entirely your discretion. I would say that if that's the case, then he has heard the substance of the matter and ought to be able to participate and vote.
I'm happy to proceed then. Any dissent from members? I'm happy to listen to an alternative opinion if there is one. I do have a hand from Robert New.
Just to say that the last licensing meeting that I attended, I missed the very start of it, and you obviously excluded me from being able to take part. So I just think that consistency is probably key on this. I literally only missed the opening remarks on it. I watched the entire thing, but wasn't able to vote or take part in that decision making. So I think that we should be consistent on those things.
Then if that is the case, and I did that at the last meeting, I'm willing to take that view, and I'm very sorry, Councillor Madden. It's a shame because I would like you to have participated, but thank you very much. Sorry, Councillor Madden, please stay for the duration of the meeting, though it is very important.
Sorry, I need to ask one question.
Yeah.
I've read the report inside out. I got delayed this morning, okay? Are you telling me that since I came in when the deputation was read out, anything before that was new to the report?
Councillor Madden, nothing new has been added to the report, no, but Councillor Madden, I've been informed that I've done it before, and that sets precedent in my eyes, and I don't believe I can go against that at all.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I object to this. I must say. This is nothing. This is not like the last meeting. This is a meeting where we've got the paper in front of us. I've read the paper several times. I was slightly delayed coming back in this morning. And if you rule me out, well, that's entirely up to you, but I think it's totally wrong.
I don't particularly want to go back and watch the last meeting to see what I actually did, and I will take Councillor New's word for it, and I'll go back and watch that meeting later on today, but I do apologise, Councillor Madden. Like I said, please stay for the duration of the meeting. We had, I guess the hand from Councillor Peter Harris was about Leo's arrival. I guess that was a yes.
Hello, Chair. Sorry, I got thrown out and now I'm back.
Okay, sorry. Councillor Madden is not participating in the meeting anymore. Councillor New informed me that I had excluded Councillor New from a previous meeting for him turning up late for an agenda item. So
yeah, just to help, you're absolutely right. It was only for the one item that I was not present for the first couple of minutes that you excluded me from, and then I was able to rejoin the meeting from the next item onwards, and you were quite fair on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Councillor Ashmore.
All right. Okay. All right. No, it's just a couple of questions, really. Who do I direct the questions at?
I'll open up questions to the floor, Councillor Ashmore. I think you should say them, and I guess it would be Sam. I don't know if Hayley managed to make it back in, and Ross is here to ask license.
See Hayley's symbol down there. Yeah.
Oh, you can see her picture, so she might be in. Excuse me.
All it was I just wanted to make clear that in the cabinet recommendations that involved similar discussions on the clean air zone, we decided to await discussion with the disability forum about the wheelchair accessible vehicle. Does that affect this report in any way, or the recommendations that we'll be discussing and voting on today?
I think so.
Anyone free to answer that?
I'll give it a go. I guess the recommendations in this report are specifically intended to support wheelchair accessible vehicles, which will support, I guess, disability groups in turn. I think the concern over disability groups in the cabinet meeting was really as to what length of sunset period should be offered to best provide that support, whereas we're already kind of saying we will look to provide that support.
Okay, so we can vote on this as a separate thing. Thank you. I've got two other questions. One of them is that when we're talking about funding for the trade there, one of the things that we wanted to do and we asked the government for as an administration was the idea of a scrappage scheme for older vehicles to be able to upgrade to more compliant vehicles or electric vehicles. Have we got any news on if that's going to be allowed for taxis, private hires, etc.?
The proposals in the report are, or so far that we've heard from JACU or the government, is that it's the cost of you're essentially expected to scrap your or sell on your old vehicle and then use that money received from that and the money, the grant funding from government towards the cost of a new vehicle.
Okay. Thank you. And the last one there, because we've heard the deputation from Bruce Hall there, and he also wrote to me about and mentioning the fact that, we other taxis from other or surrounding local authorities don't have to abide by what we do, so they can come in from outside. They can register somewhere else up in Havant or something and come in. But as this is regarding a clean air zone and non-compliant vehicles, private hire taxis, if they came from outside the area, they would still be subject to a £10 charge no matter what, because that's the rules that the government have made, that they got a charge under a Class B.
Yeah, providing providing that those vehicles are non-compliant.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Non-compliant. Okay, so it's across the board. All right, thank you. That's all I want to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Peter Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Have we carried out any research since March 2020? I mean, Bruce alluded to the fact that the research that we are making the decision on basically is old. Have we carried out any existing research to support the position of where we are? Anyone?
We've been monitoring the levels of taxis and private hire and how they've, I guess, been faring over the year. We've also done a number of sensitivity tests in the model to kind of reflect the changes that have happened this year to understand the impact on the clean air zone, and unfortunately the government are still requiring us, despite this data, they're still requiring us to introduce a Class B clean air zone.
Okay, no issue, Sam. I'm just getting to clarity because I can't really see much in the report about it,
Sure.
which is why I make the interesting point that Bruce makes. We're going to the sunset periods. This is where I do have a bit of an issue with the sunset period, because fundamentally the Cabinet has made a decision to have wheelchair accessible vehicles to be allowed to have a sunset period, but we don't know what the sunset period looks like, and we're asked to make a decision on it today, which, to be fair, is really bad policy. We're asked to make a policy decision on something that we have no idea about effectively. One person in this meeting probably does have an idea about that, and that's one of the Cabinet members who is designed to make the policy decision, and that's Councillor Dave Ashmore. So my actual question is to Councillor Ashmore, if I may, so he can have actually an idea of what that looks like.
Can I just intervene before that question?
Through you, Chair.
Yeah, just because if Dave Ashmore starts answering questions, would that preclude him from the debate in general? So Ben, could you just clarify something? Not for prejudicial issues, surely. Hi, Ben.
Hello there. Sorry about the delay. Muting and unmuting. Can you put the question again, please, Chair?
Scott, thank you.
I'll do it again. I'm asking, the fact is, we are asked to make a policy decision based on the report we have in front of us. The Cabinet met on Tuesday and put an exemption in for a potential sunset period for wheelchair accessible vehicles. We have no idea what that looks like, and that will impact the level of funding that we get, right? So my question is quite simple to Councillor Dave Ashmore, who has got the delegated authority, along with Councillor Stagg, to what that looks like. I don't think that's an unreasonable question.
No, I'm happy to answer it. But one of the things let me get it right. The sunset period just means that will be exempt, and any officers jump in if I make the wrong assumptions here, but it means they will be exempt from the charge for the period of the sunset exemption there. At the Cabinet report, it was suggested a 6-month one. What we did at Cabinet was we accepted the other recommendations for things like vintage buses, a couple of days for a year, or vehicles like if they need to get a crane through the roads or something like that to build something. But also we thought wheelchair accessible vehicles on an equalities basis should probably have that sunset clause, that exemption period. So what we did at Cabinet is say we need a discussion with the Disability Forum about how that will work. So essentially what you're asking me is what we're asking the Disability Forum what it should look like. I can't sit here and say this is exactly what it looks like 100% until we've had that discussion.
Right. Okay. So what I'm getting at is I'm getting asked to make a decision on something that we have no idea how it's going to proceed. Because fundamentally, while you asked a really good question earlier, Dave, which is basically you brought it to the attention of that decision impacts the decision we make today. Regardless of what we talk about, the Cabinet have made a decision on the clean air zone, so we're going to have to make a decision on this style of implementation. Clean air, I mean, the sunset periods, I mean, you've referenced 6 months. I mean, Leeds do 7 years for wheelchair accessible vehicles. Bath are doing 2 years. Greater Manchester are doing 2 years, So we have no clarity on what we're doing moving forward. And to me, that is a massive, massive concern because, I mean, Bruce has already identified that the trade have got significant misgivings about the amount of money, which I sort of understand, but also the implementation. I mean, we heard earlier about the fact that it sounded like from Sam, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sam, that compliant vehicles from outside the area can come in and trade still, and nothing's really going to change on that front. So basically, what is the point in the trade engaging in a process like this when they actually don't know the answers to? And that comes back again down to the engagement piece where there is really low data on. So fundamentally, we've got a report that is not fit for purpose, and we're asked to make a decision on it. I'm really uncomfortable about that. And I'm going to leave it there.
Okay. Can I just add on to that? Or
I think Sam wanted to reply briefly, and then we'll come back to you, Councillor Ashmore, and then I'll continue with questions. Thank you.
I've been referring to the chair. It's Erica with regards to engagement.
Sorry, I thought it was Sam. Hello, Erica. You're cutting in and out a little bit, so I suggest not to put your camera on, if that's all right, and just speak, and then hopefully might make it a little bit better.
There you go. Can you hear me okay now, Chair? Oh, now I can't. Is that okay?
Yeah, it should be fine. Thank you.
Apology. I just wanted to refer back to Councillor Pater Harris's point with regards to engagement. The consultation did result in low levels of engagement. That has improved ever since. I've been in post for 7 weeks, and in that period we have increased the amount of engagement. Certainly with information shared. I'd like to be able to claim that every single driver had contacts. I think I'm pretty close. I think it's more like 9%. And we have had a response. We've had an increased response just in the last couple of weeks, and it does reflect the engagement with concerns the improvement. So there's nothing that's fundamentally different from the previous engagement. Back to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Councillor Ashmore.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Erica said it better there. Consultation with the trade there. Erica there has been a kind of go-between there to have negotiations, not just about this, but about a lot of things related to getting vehicles more compliant and to answer questions. So that's increased direct communication with the trade there. But to refer to what Councillor Pater Harris was saying about what other authorities sunset clause are, we can't make judgments based on what that count, those councils are doing, it might be something completely different. They might have different data. They might have different periods when they're expected to reach compliance. They might be worse than us. They might be better than us. We can only go by what we've got here in Portsmouth. And as you know, we've got other issues. We're a densely populated city, for example, only island city. We've got a port as well. So we've got all those things to think about. Whereas, the other councils may not. So that, the sunset clause there, it's an exemption. It's the length of time, I think, is what you're referring to. That's what I was referring to. My question was about if that affects this, and I was told it wasn't. It's just about the length of time there, and we will know that later on when those discussions have been had.
Thank you, Councillor Ashmore. I do have two hands up. I did say about RTS in the chat, so I'll go to Councillor Lee Mason first. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just really following on from the answer we had before, in the last time we discussed this, we got told it wasn't really quite capable to know which other taxis from other areas, 100% are taxis or are private hire, because we don't have the national list, so they might go through as a normal car. Yet today we've been told they will be picked up. Can we have a 100% guarantee that every single taxi or private hire vehicle from another vehicle will be correctly identified and will be charged? Because I think it could get a little bit confusing if we've got sunset clauses that are different to their sunset clauses and they've got different exemptions, and then they come in thinking they are or aren't going to be charged and don't pay. How are we going to actually know if they should have paid and track them down? Last time we were still very much led to that we wouldn't know for certain, and today we're told we will know for certain. So I'm looking for that guarantee, please.
I'll have to go away and find the exact piece of text that says it, but it's my belief that this is checked against a national database compliance of vehicles and the details of what vehicles are taxis, and that's held nationally as opposed to locally. So they will ask local authorities for their details of which vehicles are compliant or not, and which are taxis and not.
Does that mean that if they have a exemption from another authority, that will show them as being compliant on the compliance list?
No.
Sorry. I guess that's it. Councillor Joseph Azakali.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I take it this is actually for questions rather than for an actual debate on the subject. And I'm not happy with the report, I'll give you that now. I'm glad that Scott Peter Harris raised some concerns that he had. But in regards to specific questions, I'd like to know, do we know how many taxis there actually are in Portsmouth compared to the actual number of charging points that we're going to be given? I don't know how many charging points are being suggested, but as an example, how long does it take to charge a vehicle? Could these points be used by anybody else, or is it public use? So I want to know, first of all, whether it's practical compared to, I mean, there must be at least 1,000 taxis, I think, but I don't know the exact figure. So based on the number of taxis, the charging points, etc., it'd be useful to know that information. And the last point, what we raised about what monitoring has been done since 2020, the officer said there had been some done, but the figures won't make any change to the actual government decision. It will still be nice to actually know the stats, but I don't know what they are yet. Thank you.
Ross, I think wants to answer that one. Hello, Ross.
Chair, actually, I wanted to go back to the point that Councillor Lee Mason raised, and just to say that we're obliged to send weekly updates to DEFRA on all our vehicles, which I presume are for the purposes of the national database that was referred to. So this is empirical evidence that will be collated, I guess, England-wide, which can then be used to answer the question that was raised and that Sam referred to as well, that there will be a national database to look at those vehicles that are compliant or not compliant.
So we will be, every car that comes in and out through the area will be checking the national database. Can we access the national database at the moment so we can actually see what information is there?
There is a national database. It's on the DEFRA website. I don't exactly know where the link is, but I'm sure we could provide that to you, Councillor, after the meeting.
The as a council, we have access to it to actually check every vehicle, and we're certain that our software will reference.
I believe so. I can't say about the software, but certainly the empirical data is there for all licensed vehicles, and we send that on a weekly basis to DEFRA.
Thank you. Who's able to answer Councillor Fasakli's question?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So we have currently about, 1,090 taxis within Portsmouth. At the start of lockdown in the spring, there was this decrease of, I'm not sure the exact number, 100 or 200 around that region of private hire vehicles dropped, and it's remained low ever since, or lower. The funding the £500,000 of funding would get us in the region of around 10 rapid charging points. But this reflects the fact that we don't anticipate the whole fleet to go electric at once. This will be a gradual process over the coming decade, and additional infrastructure can be installed as time goes on. At present, I believe it takes around half an hour, 40 minutes to charge a vehicle on these rapid charging stations. And in terms of monitoring, yes, the licensing department keep a spreadsheet of or a database of the levels of all the vehicle details as time goes on, and so you can see changes in compliance and age and ownership over time.
Thank you very much, Scott. Councillor Pater Harris.
Thank you, Chair. It just goes back to a point that Councillor Ashmore made about unable to compare other authorities. Well, the fact is that we have an Appendix A that is adopted by other local authorities that we've been asked to look at to compare. Tells me that we can. And on that point, we're going to go to look at Leeds. I mean, if you go to the Appendix A in the report, which I think is a really good bit of document, actually, it's probably the best document in the report because it gives you an idea of what everyone else is doing. You look at that, it outlines quite clearly what Leeds are doing. But what I would like to know is how many taxis Leeds have, what level of funding Leeds are getting, because that will actually outcome any decision that we make or any decision we decide to make. The same could be said for Bristol, the same could be said for Manchester, the same could be said for Bath. At the moment, we have a complete lack of detail. This report is a good basis, which is quite disappointing because actually there could be some solid foundation to make a proper decision. But then we fundamentally come back to the Cabinet decision. And the Cabinet decision does feed into this report. It's quite obvious that if we have an idea of what sort of exemption are, we're going to have to make it a better decision-making process. The fact is the Cabinet have dragged their feet for weeks and weeks and weeks and now are trying to bounce it through this committee, and that's not acceptable. That is wholly unacceptable, and the Cabinet should really be blamed for this because they are trying to ram something through a committee that is not acceptable. And I tell you now, I can tell you openly, I'm not voting for this today at all because there are not enough assurances in this document to actually give us enough information to make a proper decision. And we as a council could be putting people out of jobs. We could be putting people on the breadline. It's not acceptable, So this report fundamentally needs a lot more done before I'd even think about voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pater Harris. I had someone called Alex Roke with their hand up. Is that you?
Hi there. I'm one of the technical transport planners as well. I've been doing some research with Sam on the paper. I just wanted to say in Appendix E, we did include some information that Councillor Pater Harris just said about, for instance, the amount of CAF funding received in Leeds and the size of their fleet as recently as we could find, which was March 2019. It's not for every authority that is in Appendix A, but is for a select amount. Thanks.
That's all well and great having the data, but it's not in the report. We don't know about it, so it's pointless bringing it up. I've been honest, yeah, it's really pointless bringing it to this decision meeting. If it's not in the report and we have no idea and you have it to 2019, it's not hard. Pick up the phone and ask your colleagues in Leeds. Where's the difficulty in that? We all network, we all speak to different people. I'm sure that a council officer could phone another council officer. I'm being quite blunt here because it's not good enough. If it's good, I'll say it's good. If it's not, it's not. And clearly on this case, it's not.
Bloody microphone. Sorry. Councillor Bennett's one. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want a bit of clarification on, we're talking about the charging. Obviously, there's information, or vague information, I guess, on how long it takes for a vehicle to charge. Do we have any information on an average of how many times a day a vehicle is going to be needed to be charged? Because obviously that's going to be taking vehicles off the road and therefore potentially impacting on people's income. So obviously that's a key factor as well.
I think it very much depends on the range of the vehicle itself, and how far it can go. Essentially, I think the newer vehicles can go a lot further on a charge than the older EV or hybrid vehicles.
But we don't have a general average or anything like that.
I think it just varies so much.
I can provide some examples. So for a rapid charger, say a 1 hour charge on a 43 to 50 kilowatt charger for a Nissan Leaf, that would take about an hour's charging to provide 143 miles range. So it does vary greatly, but we can say between 60 to 200 miles of range in 20-30 minutes of charging on these rapid chargers. So the aim was that these would be at taxi hubs and places where they're most commonly stopping, so they can charge between different, what's the word I'm looking for? Not tariffs, but that sort of thing.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I have Councillor Robert New, and I can see all your chat stuff. Sorry, Councillor Symes, I can't see your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a follow-on question, really, actually, just because Councillor Ashmore and I have been out to see some interesting electric vehicles lately. But it was just with regards to, so the funding that we talked about earlier on in the officers presented in their report, with regards to being able to retrofit existing taxis to support them. Like, forgive me for everything I don't know around this, but I mean, I always think of those kind of cabs as being like the big black cabs, etc., etc. Realistically, how are we able to support them? Because I would imagine on vehicles like that, which always seem to me to kind of be fairly, like they seem like they're fairly old designs, that they can only go so far. And so you mentioned that it would be just over 40% of vehicles that would be able to be retrofitted and upgraded. I'm assuming, though, that that's only realistically a temporary measure in terms of there would be, you spoke about time limits of being around 2025. But beyond that, what would those drivers need to do? Would they basically need to look to go for some low to zero emissions car? Because I suppose my concern is around that is around the actual costs. And now that we're talking about things like electric vehicles, etc., they ain't cheap. And I'll put some perspective perhaps onto this for electric cars, because it doesn't seem that there's a lot of clarification coming forward. While there are small town runarounds available from somewhere between 11,000 for a Renault Twizy to around the 25,000 mark, those cars do an average of around 30 miles on a charge, and then they have to be charged. To get any sort of decent range of over 100 miles, you're up into the region of 40,000 to 100,000 pounds. These taxi drivers are on, they don't have these huge incomes to be able to support. I think that sort of capital investment, and while I don't want to make kind of like a sweeping statement about their incomes, I do recognise that it's tough, it's hard, and this year especially it's been even harder. And if we were to put on various different measures now going forward in relation to the CAS, I just wonder, actually, realistically, what it's actually going to do to the trade overall. I can't see that there is a viable livelihood with all these restrictions that are coming that we would look to impose. So it would be good to have some clarity around what I was just asking about with regards to the funding to retrofitting and the specific models of taxis. Because like I say, I always think of like the big black taxi cabs, and I may well be wrong. You know, and so it would be great to get some more info around that, and also just realistically how far we can go, and within that limit of around 2025 that you spoke about earlier on, and the limits, I guess, and what would then be required by those taxi drivers going forward, because I guess it would need to be a low to zero emission car with a big capital investment, or an electric vehicle from our conversation the report's been going. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's able to answer Councillor New's question there?
I'm happy to. So actually, in terms of retrofitting, we during our engagement, I think we came to the appreciation that the trade weren't particularly interested in that at this time. So we focused our money on, or we focused our attention to kind of providing grants to assist them in upgrading their vehicles. The money obviously is tied to the clean air zone, and so it's not so much tied to the vehicles being older than 8 years as per the licensing restrictions, but whether or not they're CAS compliant. So the vehicles that they can buy at this time, they don't have to be new or electric, they just need to be compliant with the CAS. So for the majority of vehicles which are diesel, they just need to be younger than September 2015. As to 2025, yes, the vehicles would either need to be a hybrid, or one of the better performing hybrids, or electric. However, they don't need, well, Ross might be able to advise a bit better than this, but we're not especially looking for them to kind of upgrade to your London black cab model. There are cheaper models out there, which Eric has been doing some engagement with the trade, and they've been suggesting models in the region of, well, Ross might be able to help here.
Ross.
I guess the iconic standard is the LEC V Geely vehicle, which is the big black cab now, the electric one, which is about 58 to 60,000 pounds. But it's worth reminding members that if you look around your own city, some of the wheelchair accessible vehicles now that are adapted by companies like Allied Vehicles and Cab Direct are, if you like, derived from previously what were known as vans, the Mercedes Vito, the Fiat Scudo, and locally we've noticed recently the introduction of smaller wheelchair accessible vehicles like the Peugeot TP, which is a rear loading vehicle, which I don't know the exact price, but I would suggest it's certainly with trade discounts a lot less than £30,000 for a brand new vehicle. So I don't think your policies, Chair, have ever said you must aspire to the gold standard of the London style LEC V vehicle, and there are certainly a range of other vehicles that are wheelchair accessible and presumably will meet the current standards for emissions that the trade could look at that will probably be less than £30,000 and subject to grants that they might get as a new purchaser.
Thank you very much. Councillor New, did you want to come back on that at all?
No, thank you. That's great. That's the information I needed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Linda Symes.
Yes, I'd just like to say that looking through this report, there are so many unanswered questions. These aren't the only ones. And I don't think we can possibly look at this today and make a decision based on what we know at this time. I think it's an unfinished report. I think it's got big gaps in it. And I think that although we can actually ask questions on it, we can't satisfy ourselves completely that we are voting on something that we know all the detail of.
Thank you very much. I have some questions. I guess I can speak now. So if we vote against recommendations today, I guess we would not be able to get the extra 0.5 million for rapid charging fleets. But I want to know, if we vote against recommendations today, or we choose not to endorse any, what are we able to put in the final business case for JACU to tell them what money that taxis would get? Would we get nothing? Because I'm aware the final business case goes in 2 weeks. Is that right? Hopefully Sam could answer that.
Yeah, no, the final business case goes in on the 21st of December. So you're right, we wouldn't get the money, the $500,000 for rapid charging points. We would get the 600,000 for non-compliant vehicles because they're tied to the CAS rather than licensing restrictions. So there are 321 non-compliant taxis and PHVs in the city at the moment who will need to upgrade or pay for entry to the CAS. The only final recommendation is with regards whether or not you wish us to kind of seek further funding for WAVs, and that could be independent of either of the other two recommendations, but I guess there is a dependency on the length of sunset period being offered.
Thank you. Councillor Ashmore.
Thanks, Chair. Sam, so are you saying there's another chance to get funding for wheelchair accessible vehicles independent of this?
Apologies. So, yeah. We're
but it's strings attached is what
well, we've got £600,000, and we've previously asked the question as to whether or not we can provide further funding for wheelchair accessible vehicles, and we went in quite high, and their answer was no. But we were seeking your opinion essentially as to whether you wish us to go back and pursue that conversation further.
But there is a risk if we don't go with this that we won't get the money based on JACU's funding formula. That's what we're kind of hearing throughout this conversation.
Well, we have the 600,000, so that is separate from the EV funding. We have £600,000 for the trade, and regardless of whether or not JACU will allow us to provide more to wheelchair accessible vehicles, we have that funding. It's just whether or not you would like us to pursue that further.
They need to know that we're serious.
Yeah.
Basically, so yeah. I've had a look through the appendixes there, and it looks like other local authorities, they've got harsher maximum limits for their taxis, PHVs, than we have. For example, I mean, Leeds was 7 years, wasn't it? Greater Manchester, looking at it, 5 years. Oxford's 5 years, sometimes 7 years. So we're saying 8 years, aren't we? So we're actually not as harsh as those other local authorities that have had the ministerial directives, and that's the operative word here. It's the ministerial directive. This isn't up to us. I've noticed in the news as well that Leeds have, because their businesses have upgraded to electric vehicles now, they've been told they don't have to have the clean air zone anyway, because their air will be cleaner and compliant anyway. So, you know, so it shows that upgrading it quickly does mean you don't, you know, the air is cleaner, and it does mean that you don't have to have things like your clean air zone. And let's not forget that these ministerial directives came about because of public health, which is the human cost of it. And we've seen recently, I don't know if other members have seen recently, there's been a case going on in London about a 9-year-old girl, Ella Kesey Deborah, who has died, and they think it might be linked to air pollution. And if that is true, there could be a whole lot of other cases like that. So we do have to look at the fact that, you know, this is about cleaner air, and we're in that climate emergency that we all adopted. So what I'm saying is there's going to be harsh decisions on this, but we have to do it sensibly, and we have to do it what's, you know, targeted. And that's what I'm worried about. If we don't go and say we're serious about this from today, we might actually end up, you know, doing ourselves and our businesses out of justice, if you like. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got hands up as well as RTSs. Councillor Peter Harris, did you want to speak? Or was that our legacy hand?
Yeah, no, I do want to speak. You know what? I've just listened to Councillor Ashmore, and I tell you now, I'm flabbergasted. You know, we're 2 weeks away from having to put a bid in, and we're here making a decision because the cabinet can't make a bloody decision. I'm sorry, but that's not acceptable. You know, to take some responsibility and admit that it's gone too far down the line, and the cabinet should have made a decision by now on a sunset period. You haven't done that. You've done the classic Liberal Democrat sitting on the fence. Oh, it's not our fault. It's the government. Oh, this is going on. Just be honest with people. And that's all we ask, you know. And that's all I ask, you know, as a member of the licensing committee. Don't have slopey shoulders. Take responsibility. You know, the report isn't good enough. I'm glad that Councillor Vadakazi's got a spine and actually admits it as a member of the ruling administration and admits that there is an issue with the report. And I'm really grateful for that. And I think actually you've misconstrued it. It's new licensing is a max of 5 years. So again, you don't know your own policy, and you're the cabinet member for climate change, which is, you know, shows you don't know what you're doing. But you know, that's another story. You know, and I'm just not happy about this. This is classic. This is now getting into a political realm where it shouldn't be. You know, take responsibility. This report isn't good enough. You can't vote for it. It's not got enough information. The cabinet, it needs to go back to the cabinet and say, what is the sunset period? That means we can actually have a proper idea of what we're doing to the trade. At the moment, the trade have no idea what they're doing, you know, and it's not fair. It's really not fair. So I take the point, but I'm actually flabbergasted by the comments that actually just made by Councillor Ashmore. He's way off the point. He's clearly not on top of his brief, and he needs to take some responsibility for that.
Thank you, Councillor Peter Harris. Councillor Lee Mason.
Thank you much, Chair. I think on the matter of compromise, there's a large number of us that aren't happy with the report and don't think it's ready, and that's not just from one party, that is cross-party. And I think for it to be going forward, it does really need to have cross-party support to have any running. As compromise, can I suggest that we have the report come back to us in a more substantial and completed way on the 18th? That gives 3 days. I know it'll be over the weekend, but 3 days before it has to be handed in on the 21st. It also gives it a week before it has to be published. To get rounded, but I think at the moment we can't vote for this. And I don't really want to be having lots of meetings in the run up to Christmas, but I think that's the only way forward we can go to try and get agreement between us. So I'm just throwing it out there as an option, but at the moment I'm quite unhappy with the report. I think it does need more filling out. And I am relieved to hear that we get the 600,000k regardless. So that money is guaranteed regardless. So this is only about the EV points, and we've already done a lot of EV. Well, we did while we were in administration, put in a lot of EV points already. So the money for the trade is guaranteed. So the trade side of it will not be affected by this. It's merely for the money for EV points. So I think we need to spend a little bit extra time try and get this sorted if we can. So that's my proposal, but I'm happy to hear other people speak first before we go to a vote on it.
Thank you. I will definitely keep that in mind. Definitely, I know we're running really close. It's 2 weeks, but we can do a meeting on what is it? 8 days? 8 days notice with reports, isn't it? Surely. Okay.
On the 18th, then that would give us a few days to get it sorted and also time to get it announced out before, and that's a Friday as well before it's got to go in.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Fazakali in the list.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to clarify whether this was still questions or debate, but it appears to be debate now. So
it's a bit of both because we're so unsure about some stuff that we're just a little bit confused across. I definitely am at this point. Sorry, excuse my throat.
Okay, so if it's kind of comments at this stage, then I'll support what some of the previous speakers have said. I'm not happy to accept the report at this stage. There's a lot more I think we need to look into this one. And the point is that the officer, when it was introduced originally, said that this was the licensing committee's or licensing department's views towards assisting the taxi trade. But then you've got a very comprehensive response given by Bruce Hall on behalf of the on behalf of the taxi trade, saying how they disagree with a huge amount of what's been said. So I think we have to give some credence to the people that are actually in the front line of it. A third of the fleet will be affected by this. So that's what, not 300 plus taxis? We said there are about 1,090 of them. So if you think of the individual cost for each of those individuals involved, I mean, that's thousands of pounds. for that particular person to have to try and deal with in a very short period of time. Basically, we're talking about 2022, and almost in 2021. So, I mean, that doesn't sit easy for me to try and put that sort of emphasis financially on a particular individual, bearing in mind when the taxi trade, like so many others, have been decimated over the last year because of COVID, and there's still no kind of end date or things will come back to normality, vaccine or vaccine not, as the case may be. So, yeah, so in summary, I'll echo that. I don't feel I'm not comfortable enough to support this report today. So Councillor Mason just given a suggestion as to when perhaps we could defer this to and come back to it. So as he's given that, I'm happy to second it, but certainly today I can't give my support to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fasakali. Councillor Science, you've had your hand up for ages. I don't think you can assess the chat. So did you want to say something? Thank you.
No, I don't. Sorry.
That's all right. Councillor New.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, Councillor Fasakali has just beaten me to it. I completely agree with the points made by yourself, Chair, and also by the previous speakers, and I would support a deferral to the 18th so that we can hopefully get fuller, wider support for a better report to go forward and hopefully to get all of the monies.
Thank you very much. Councillor Benedict Swan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've kind of been beaten to the punch as well, to be honest. But quite honestly, the whole thing is just a flim flam of vagaries and maybe nots. And I actually feel there is an attempt to railroad us into making a decision on this, and it's just not good enough, and it's certainly not fair to the trade. So, yeah, I'm in complete agreement that we need to come back on this.
Thank you very much. I must say, I'm annoyed that this is 2 weeks before we have to go back to Jakku and whoever else, and that we're stuck here at this meeting and we have to make very quick decisions. I was worried about that 600,000 because we could have cut off our nose to spite our faces at this point, but it sounds like we're not going to do that. So as long as we get this wording right, Councillor Mason, about deferral, let's vote on your motion. Someone's waiting in the lobby. I'll admit them, whoever that is. I was going to say their name because it's a telephone call.
George Fielding.
Oh.
Is now joining.
Okay. Hi, George. Hello, Councillor Fielding. I guess you've had connection issues.
Sorry, yeah, my connection keeps dropping and I've had to come in on a phone. Sorry.
That's fine, thank you. So, Councillor Mason, could you confirm what your motion is, please? Your recommendation.
My recommendation is that we send the report back to the officers to be extended and taken on board what the committee have said today, and to look in for the further examples. And we come back to reconvene on the 18th with a new report, which still leaves 3 days before it has to be submitted, whilst noting that the 600k is not at risk either way for the trade.
Thank you very much, and that is seconded by, who was it? Councillor Peter Harris, wasn't it?
No, it was me.
Sorry.
It was Councillor Fazaki's little victory today.
Oh, I apologise, Councillor Fasakali. I'm worried. I know you said the 18th, but I guess DEM services will be trying to figure out what time. I'm happy to have a meeting at any time. To be fair, I'm happy to have a meeting at a weekend at this point. To get it through. I'm more than anything, I'm worried about the subsidies that we can give the taxi drivers, and that needs to be heard. So we definitely need to be back in the room before the final business case comes out.
The 18th is Friday again, so it's exactly 2 weeks today. So should we say 10 o'clock the same?
Yeah.
If the room's not busy, then I'm at the room. I'll say the room like we're going to. So that's how much it's being in person.
I'll just need to double check that there's no other meetings going on at that time, but I can pencil it in for the 10 o'clock on the 18th. That's fine.
Thank you very much. It's because we can't just live stream 2 meetings at once. That's why everything breaks like it has done today anyway. Councillor Peter Harris.
No, I think it's a really sensible move, Chair, to move forward on that basis. I think it's gives us an opportunity to make a proper decision and to come back and actually make a more informed decision. And I'm really grateful for Councillor Mason to bring that forward, and Councillor Fasakali for seconding it. I think it's really sensible. It's really sensible for the council. It's really sensible for the drivers, and it's really sensible for all of us to make a proper decision on an informed basis. What I would suggest, Chair, obviously the report needs to be sorted very quickly. Other reports that have gone to other areas of the council that haven't been quite ready, the agenda's been published and they've had reports to follow. If that is the case again, so just so we can get it published on the agenda and make sure it's ready to go, I'd be happy for that on that basis as well.
Thank you. I would like to ask members, if you have questions, please email them into the officers relevant, or even tag me and Scott in, and we can put them appropriately and get them in there, and hopefully questions will be completely answered before we come back to this meeting, so we don't have another lengthy discussion.
I suggest also that to try and expedite the process, when the report is being drawn up and finalised for the critique, could it be done in consultation with the chair and group spokespersons? So that might possibly grease its way through at the next stage. So if yourself, Scott, etc., all have pre-sight of it, that might help.
Thank you very much. I guess that would be the case anyway.
Yeah, I think that's quite a good idea, actually, Chair, because obviously the 3 group spokespersons for environment and climate change are actually all members of the committee across the 3 groups. So I think that would be quite handy to have Councillor New, Councillor Ashmore, and I think it's Councillor Fielding as the 3. So if they could actually feed into the discussion, I think that'd be really sensible.
Thank you very much. I hope officers are listening to that. We're all willing and ready. We have emails on our phone and we can be contacted. So I am moving the recommendations from Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Vasakali. If there is any dissent, please note it now, and then I'll have to do a full check, wouldn't I, at this point? I say there's no dissent, and that is passed, which brings an end to our meeting today, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you for your discussions today. Obviously, they've been very, very important, and I am just as annoyed as everyone else in this meeting, and thank you for cooperating. So see you all soon, everyone, on the COVID briefing in about an hour's time. See you soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
George Fielding
is now exiting.